upside cost is like $3 a kilowatt hour or kilowatt. So if we were to submit 12 megawatts, we're looking at $36,000. On top of that, you have to commit to pay any cost for a transmission study from Southwest Power Pool. So that's an unknown cost, but they were saying generally for a request you're looking at $100,000 split amongst participants. At this point, they were wanting responses back from cities by the 15th. They've got a fairly low participant.
25 megawatts right now.
Right now, they're aware of the fact
not
that...
counting anything that we would do.
Right. And they're aware of the fact we were going to visit with you all tonight, and it would be the next council meeting, or the
21st of July.
21st of July was as soon as we could get a commitment. And they're okay with that. So, but I think probably...
Yeah, let's kind of walk through these items, that what they provided us. Their projections are pretty close to what my projections are. They're almost, I looked at them, they're almost exactly the same. And so this is our historical load that you can see there. And they estimated 2012, but 2013 forward was their projected. And this is our peak demand and our energy requirements, and the load factor is how efficient we use that peak demand. This is our current supply situation. We have two generating units rated at 13.5 megawatts each. The GRDA, OPPD, and the WAPA, as David indicated, are what they are here. They show 5 to 20 under OPPD. We have an agreement that allows us to only have to buy 5 in the winter months, and then we have 10 in the summer months. And we have an option to get another 10 if we ever needed it. And that was designed around the intermodal, and whether or not that would ever be underneath the city's requirements. And obviously that's going away. Here's the projected deficiencies in our capacity. The bottom line shows that we had positive capacities all the way through until 2019. And obviously it starts going down negative because we lose the 10 megawatts of OPPD. And that's what's driving a little bit of this. I had a question on the planning reserves. I did not know that GRDA carried reserves with it, so we don't have to provide it ourselves. And so up through 2026, GRDA handles the reserves associated with the 9 megawatts that we purchased from them. After that, we have to pick up the reserves. On this one, this shows our existing capacity situation. The green bar shows GRDA and WAPA, Western Area Power Administration. The OPPD at 20 megawatts, that's not necessarily correct because we only get 10 credited. They indicate 20 because we could get up to 20. And then there's 27 megawatts of city generation. And over time, you can see that once the OPPD goes away, compared to our peak demand and our responsibility, it's called capacity responsibility, we become deficient. And so one of the requirements of the Southwest Power Pool is that we maintain our system capacity responsibility, which means that we have enough capacity to meet our peak load plus our reserve requirements. And that's in order for us to play in the game. Here's where the energy is the electricity side of it. The other one was the capacity to generate electricity. And this is the energy. 67% comes from GRDA, 54% comes from OPPD. Energy needed, we primarily get that through the market. We buy that, KMEA buys that for us under agreements or right directly from the market. This is called the load duration curve. They stack every hour, the highest hour to the lowest hour in the total year. And it's 8,760 hours. So that gives us that curve. The highest hour of the year is hour number 1, and the lowest hour of the year is 8,760 hours. That's how many hours are in a year. And then they show what energy is meeting those hours. As you can see, GRDA at 9 megawatts meets a lot of the energy requirements all the way through. OPPD at 5 megawatts, which is what we get in the winter, provides a good chunk of it. Then OPPD at 10 provides another chunk, but there's that little red area after that that is bought in the market. And then there's the WAPA, the 700 kilowatts that we get from them. And then there's the other red part, again, that comes from the market. And then city generation would be those other hours. We generally have never generated 1,000 hours. So these guys have assumed that there would be 1,000, that the energy would come, 1,000 hours of energy would come off the generating unit. But if we generate 100 hours, that's a lot of generation right now. But so that's actually coming from the market also.
Greg,
Yes, go ahead.
would that 1,000 be just from EMP one?
That'd be market.
Or would they have put that in the red, or do you think they would have put that up with the?
Well, that would have come from the EMP one cities in what we call city-to-city transactions. That's gone away. That's no longer a viable. With the new market, they did away with city generation. We do no longer buy from cities. We only buy from the market. And so that's why I said that that's the market really going forward. In 2019, this next graph, that same load duration curve for 2019 shows the GRDA, and then it shows our deficiency in red. Base load is used 24 hours a day, 365 days a year generally. Intermediate is just exactly what it is. It's the hours. Generally, it's 8 in the morning till 10 at night, 5 days a week. They call it 5 by 16, I think is what they call it. So that would fill in the intermediate. And again, the city generation is market purchases or generation. And this time in this is, in my mind's eye, that would have been market purchases because the city is not competitive with the market, generally speaking. So it's cheaper to buy in the market than to put on your generating unit. But you have to have that generating unit to play in the market. Okay, for suggested plan for Gardner is what they've suggested. And this was based on what David indicated was our initial request back in October of last year when Darren made a recommendation about what he thought the needs of the utility were going to be going forward. And intermediate, they needed about 3 megawatts. Actually 7 megawatts. Not quite sure why he had that 3 up there in that period 2015 to 2018 because it's not needed. We have sufficient capacity. And then there's the base load. So if you add 7 megawatts and 4 megawatts, you're at about 11 megawatts of need to make up for the loss of the OPPD. And then going forward, obviously, GRDA goes away. So the question is, are we planning for replacing GRDA also? And GRDA goes away in 2026. And one of the discussion points that we're going to have with KMEA is whether or not we want to try to plan for that loss of that. We've asked them at our meeting yesterday to go to GRDA and say, are you going to maybe renew this contract for us? So as we plan, we need to know. They have some political issues down there. They like to keep the power in Oklahoma. They don't like to send it to Kansas. And so they're going to have to come to grips with that. They do like the margins they make on it, though. So there's a cost associated with them keeping it in Oklahoma. But maybe they can sell it and make the same margins in Oklahoma that they're making here. But that,
OPPD, you know.
yeah, same way. I asked Dave Pettinger, I said, don't you want to keep this resource? You're making money on it. You know, that's
They're going to shut a coal plant down now in there too.
Oh, are they going to be shutting one down there too? So that may happen.
Yep.
So what we are going to have to do is decide whether we want them to help us plan for 2026. And maybe Dave can say, at our meeting yesterday, originally they thought about life of the unit type participations. But the cities have moved away from that and tried to introduce something called flexibility in the planning process, where they're only looking at 5 to 7 year increments. And so they've kind of gotten away from the life of the unit concept because a lot of the cities that are participating don't want to tie down a life of the unit contract. For example, there's a unit called Dogwood that's in Pleasanton, Missouri, I believe, Pleasant View, or whatever. They want $1 million a megawatt to buy that. If we need 10 megawatts, that's $10 million.